You change your mind, just admit it, just like they change the seasons. Didn't give you space, I was feeding, gave you 1,000 reasons. I drove 5 hours to see you, didn't know that he just left. You took my heart for a spin, wondering why I say left. Wipe those tears from your eyes, I see straight through. You think I'm blind, you broke my heart, and things ain't fine. I do this a second time. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. Is this all you are to me? Is this all you are to me? Is this all you are to me? I needed you desperately. Is this all you are to me? I needed you desperately. You changed your mind, just admit it, just like they change the seasons. Didn't give you space, I was feeding, gave you 1,000 reasons. I drove 5 hours to see you, didn't know that he just left. You took my heart for a spin, wondering why I say left. Wipe those tears from your eyes, I see straight through. You think I'm blind, you broke my heart, and things ain't fine. I do this a second time. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. Is this all you are to me? Is this all you are to me? Is this all you are to me? I needed you desperately. Is this all you are to me? Is this all you are to me? Is this all you are to me? I needed you desperately. Hot and dangerous.
Alrighty, good morning. Hopefully I blasted someone's eardrums off this morning. How's everyone doing? I think we have a lot to talk about today, as kind of usual. Let's get rid of these. It's facts though, no doctors have good handwriting. My handwriting is awkward as shit. It's half cursive, half print. I can't write full cursive. Like when I was like in 5th grade or whatever, and they were teaching cursive handwriting, I was so bad at it. I was like, screw this. I kept writing in print, and it wasn't necessary for me to like write fast until like literally until med school. And I didn't know how to write cursive, so I was just like half cursive, like the easy letters, and half print. It is ugly as hell. Borderlands put out a second patch. I haven't played that much of it. I don't know how many hours I have in it, but yeah, it's been annoying with the crashes, and I know it's not my PC because it's the only game that's ever done that. Like or we dump facts. The failed physician handwriting. I wonder how that homie's doing. I haven't seen him around in a minute. I miss the haters, man. I have $100 and don't know if I should long. Well, that's not the way to trade, right? Is just being like, I've got this much money, this is how much leverage I want to use. I don't know, you know what I mean? We gotta build a better foundation for trading than that, right? First, select the asset, right? Based on structure, trends, thesis, narrative, something. That's like the first thing you gotta do. Then, based on whatever system you're using, whether, you know, it's price action or trends or VWAP or whatever it is, mark out where the best place to enter is, mark out an invalidation, then ask yourself how much of that $100 are you willing to lose if you're incorrect on that thesis. Then you send the trade. Not, you know, we gotta step by step it. Your journal is handwritten? 100%. Let me know if the background music is too loud. I think it's a little bit louder than normal. They really told all of us they would write cursive in middle school and nobody did after middle school. Yeah. Nowadays, dude, like everything is typed and none of us know how to spell anything. This morning I stumbled for like a minute thinking about how to spell hallelujah. I had no idea. If it wasn't for like autocorrect, we'd all be screwed. French school built different. Yeah, man. The US we're falling off the cliff. I know your journal is handwritten from your older videos. Yeah, those are some deep cuts way back in the day, right? I think, you know, I think I may want to switch up the YouTube a little bit and maybe put out like a foundational series. Like I know Crypto Cred has one and everyone kind of points towards his like ABCs of trading. But some part of me wants to kind of do that myself, have like a really nice polished thing where I could just, you know, if anyone has a question on something that's like very basic, there'll be like a series, and hopefully it, you know, stands the test of time. Creds was, you know, it's still phenomenal. It's still probably relevant for anyone who's, you know, beginner, but it is, I think, like 5 years old. Maybe we could do an updated one. Don't want to steal his thunder. All credit to him. Thoughts on Pepe going to Q4? I haven't really... I mean, I had Pepe for a bit. I just swapped it over some other stuff, but... The reason I bought Pepe here was twofold. One is just beta exposure to the market. If the market's going to be strong, Pepe will likely be strong with it. But most importantly was like ETH beta. I thought, you know, ETH looked really good, and I thought Pepe would perform really well alongside ETH, and it just hasn't. Going into Q4, here's the thing. Anytime Bitcoin can expand beyond a range, so I know this isn't like a range per se. You know, I thought it was going to get capped somewhere in here. We're trading higher, you know, we're building value higher, but it's range-like, right? It's range-bound price action. It's choppy. It's not like we're not sending, we're not trending. So the market is behaving as such, right? We haven't gotten one of these big breakaways from, you know, from a long-standing range. When we get one of these, the classic thing that crypto does, it'll pump everything under the sun. We'll find a reason to pump DeFi and boomer coins and meme coins, and everything will get one rotation. In that scenario, Pepe will probably do fine, right? It'll probably outperform for a couple days to a week. But for me, I've been kind of a broken record when it comes to Pepe, right? It was probably the biggest Pepe bull on the timeline for a while. This to me seemed like as close as you could get to the max EV of the Pepe thesis, right? And the Pepe thesis was it's going to flip SHIB. And when you get the kind of wombo combo of Coinbase listing, which by the way, I didn't put the sponsors on stream. The Coinbase listing, the Upbit listing, the Robinhood listing, and it was, I believe, like 40% away from flipping SHIB, you know, after doing like 100x For me, this felt like the max EV extraction moment. And then from here, yeah, if we flip SHIB, great, fantastic. But I think, you know, the highest EV return was done at this time. So even if it does well, I'm not expecting it to, you know, I'm not expecting it to go like 5x higher than prior all-time highs. If it does, fantastic, right? Who doesn't want that? But my expectations are a bit tempered on it nowadays. Bro, I love that you guys in chat are always telling me, shout out the sponsors. I appreciate you guys so much for that. I tend to forget, honestly. So the cool thing with the Bonkbot is Charlie and I are trying to set up a little comp. We haven't announced it yet, but I keep teasing it to you guys because I fucking share everything on stream. But Charlie and I want to do a little like Battle of the Boomers, 5 Solana wallet, see who can run it up, like a little degen challenge. And I'm not expecting to win, but regardless, I think I'll learn a lot. Because if you guys have known me for a while, you've heard me speak for a while, like you've been around me, you know what's Doc's one weakness in markets is like I don't degen hard enough, right? Sometimes the sizing will be like lower than it should be. Sometimes I'm not aggressively rotating as hard, right? So I don't have that degen gene built in me. But a challenge that's like this, it's like, who cares about 5 sol, right? Let's fucking send it. Let's do it. Can you please collab with Loma? I would love to. I highly respect Loma. There was a time where I was a student in the Haven for a few months back in late 2022. I watched some of Loma's streams. I have immense respect for him. I know the size that he pushes on trades, and it would be an honor. But I don't have a personal relationship with him, right? So like, I don't know if I could just DM him and he'll just, you know, read it. He probably gets 1 million DMs a day. We need to get into the Bitcoin outlook. We've just been chatting with chat. AI Doc, I don't know about that. Doc Stolen Valor XBT. I'm not sure what you're referencing, but I'll let you have it. Give signals on charts, advice on setups. You can screenshot into the convo, answer questions about technicals and setups, and general training would unironically be a cook. I mean, isn't that what I do? That's what I already do. I don't know how to code an AI for that. All right, can you pull up XRP 1-month log chart and observe? All right, I'm curious. Usually I don't ever look at alts before BTC, but that's such a specific request that I'm just curious. What'd you say? XRP USDT 1-month log chart? I'm not sure. What are we looking at, bro? Okay, let's get into the Bitcoin outlook. I'll come back to this if there's something relevant there. All right, so with BTC, I think the biggest elephant in the room for me right now, as someone that has traded around these for at least 6 months consistently, are the CME gaps. Something I look to trade around. Something I don't really talk about that much, but people in Paragon know that, you know, how strongly I respect these because of the data that has been presented in 2025, how much the market has, you know, respected these. So we've left a massive one, right? The last time I talked to you guys about a CME gap on stream and in the outlooks and everything on that CT was this one right here, post Jackson Hole, right? We ripped into Jackson Hole. We got this big weekend sell-off and flush, right? And the minute that we were breaking over 113, the bias was fulfill the CME gap, right? That became pretty much our top. The thing is, it didn't fill the next day, right? Sometimes when we have small, little, you know, tiny CME gaps, they almost fill instantly, right? Like this one from last week from the new contract rollover, right? Gap right here filled like literally the next candle. So this one's quite large and we've pushed away from it. So when does it become relevant? It's going to become relevant if we start rolling over, right? So from now we've got momentum. The momentum on our side is based on the 15-minute trend. That has been the most respected trend so far since these lows, since these weekend lows. It is being respected. When the 15-minute trend is lost, that's probably going to start the beginning of a consolidation phase, right? The lows from here, I'm going to be looking at the VWAPs. Let's move over. These have been highly respected. It's something that I've used, you know, in the toolkit this entire quarter very strongly, especially the quarterly VWAP here on the top right. The entire quarterly has been rotational, right? This is a flat VWAP. We have 3 months of basically sideways price action. Anytime you can get very clean signals, whether it is through order flow and exhaustion around key levels or rotation failure to break out of a VWAP, out of value, you know, rotating back into value, it is giving very clean triggers like ping-ponging side to side, right? I've been using this to my advantage for the past 3 months very strongly, the quarterly VWAP. So we're once again in the quarterly VWAP. We are in quarterly value, and we're trading towards the quarterly VWAP, right? The bias is going to be the same thing. If we can get above, we can accept above, and we get a bid above, we'll probably rotate back up to the quarterly value area high. We lose the quarterly value area low. We do not want to see that. Any visits below here at this point should be short-lived, right? This is the bearish line in the sand, because what the bears want to see is they want this entire thing to be a big distribution, right? Let me go back to this chart quickly and explain what I mean. So what the bears want to see is that this entire range right here was our range. All of this is distribution. We're going to drop back below. That entire quarterly ends up being our distributive value, and we break downside from that. If we do that, things look pretty damn bad for Bitcoin, right? So we have our quarterly value area low, which needs to be defended. If we come back down, that's confluent with the CME gap that I talked about, right? So trading back below, we're going to need to see effort from here again. Any runs of these lows at this point, in my opinion, should be very short-lived. We want to see aggressive reactions off of these levels. Now I'm going to pivot over to the yearly and explain the exact same thing, right? Wrong chart. The yearly has been very clean, right? As far as bias goes, again, right? We held below yearly value for a long period of time. Once we finally got acceptance side of it, we traded the other side. We held the yearly value area high. Every single stab into this location has been beautifully met with strong buying, right? Once again, down here, this is your 3 drives momentum loss into the yearly value area high, also confluent with the weekly trend. Getting back above, that led to our rally. Of course, we talked about that CME gap above 113 to 117. That's the extension of that rally, right? For now, I don't want to see any significant time spent below here, right? I'm loving that we're getting these very strong reactions every time we trade in this level. What bears are going to see once again, what they're looking for is for Bitcoin to hold and build value in here, right? They want to see this rotate, hold in here, reject off the yearly value area high, and that brings in basically 100K, 99K, 100K. That's your kind of bear thesis, and the bear thesis is your invalidation of the bull thesis, in my opinion. Now, what about these lows, right? What about the CME gap? What about the 107K low? If we go for these, you want to see extremely strong buying, right? And if we go for these, the place where bears are going to step in is right here, right? At 110, 111. So keep that in mind. If and when it happens, I'm not saying this is going to happen tomorrow or the day after, but if and when it happens, this is going to be basically your playbook. You're looking for a strong reaction off these lows. You're looking for us to get back outside the yearly value, which is going to be confluent with the quarterly, right? And if I explain it on the quarterly, it's going to be the exact same thing, right? Like I talked about, this big distribution at the highs. And bears are going to be looking for the same thing, right? The quarterly closes in a couple days, right? So you can use like your previous quarterly values, right? Or you can use your yearly. They're basically the exact same levels. And this is where they're going to put in their show of force. If we can push through this level, I think it's clear skies for the rest of Q4, right? So I think there's going to be like one more bearish challenge left in the tank, whether it comes this week, next week, the start of the new quarter, right? Opening quarter volatility. The new quarter opens in 2 days, or maybe 3 days, depending on where you live in the world. And yeah, so if we get that early quarterly shakeout, you want to see a strong reaction underneath 108 or 107, depending on if that sweeps. The shallow sweep would be just you fill in the CME gap and you don't even take out these lows, right? How do I predict? I don't, right? I don't make a living in markets predicting. Sometimes I speculate on the odds of something being greater than the odds of something else, and you can form a trade thesis off that. But predicting if this is going to happen today, tomorrow, next week, if it's going to even happen at all, is a fool's game, right? What's the highest EV thing we can do right now is just look at the current momentum, the driving force, and then you look for exhaustion towards these highs, right? You look for spot selling, you look for people perp long in the top, you look for, if you just want to keep it really, really clean, the 15-minute trend breaking, which tells you that you're going to enter a longer consolidation, right? Take your trades intraday, that's what I know what I'll be doing. Look for confluence of other strong coins that are trading well, right? That's the things that are in our power, not predicting, you know, is it going to go lower? Are we going to sweep? How is this going to react? All I know is that if this comes, that's going to be our kind of like quote unquote do or die moment. And where the bears will try to put the force in is going to be around like 111, 112. So does that all make sense? Do I have any questions on that? That's basically how I see Bitcoin high time frame right now, right? The next high conviction thesis or kind of plan that I have on Bitcoin is the composite value area low that we built from July to early August, right? This has been extremely clean. Price has been a rotational with inside. Failures to break out, rotate back in. Here's your Jackson Hole rejection. Once again, tons of rejection, turned into distribution, and basically fell apart. I think the next time bulls can get above 116, you will get the 120K trade. Right? This is like the first test, best test, right? Rejection of this region. If this ends up being a higher low and we can kind of, you know, work our way towards 116, I think the next time we accept above this, we're probably going for 120. Another thing I've been talking to you guys about is the CME weekly trend, right? So if people are asking me, Doc, do you think the cycle's over? When is the cycle over? How do you confirm the cycle over? If you're going to wait for like a confirmation of cycle to be over, I would say it's basically at this point losing 100K, right? 100K is your yearly VWAP. Like that should be the last place. Like if we're going to trade down to 100K, that should be the absolute last place we should trade, right? That we talked about the rotation from basically under 110, bringing you down to 100K. Right? If we hold within the yearly value, we'll probably rotate to the yearly VWAP. That's your end all be all, right? Every single time this cycle that we've visited the CME chart weekly trend, it has been a turbo bottom. This is our, you know, Japan yen carry trade, Germany selling Mt. Gox and all of this stuff, right? All this junk in this location, Israel, Iran. This is the tariff FUD, right? So if we get another one of these, this is the absolute last place we can stand. 100K psychological level and all of that confluence we have based on VWAPs and EMAs and everything like that. I believe it's also for some people that like the 365-day rolling VWAP. I'm pretty sure the 365 rolling VWAP caught this low and caught this low, right? So I'm sure that it's trading somewhere in here and it'll catch up, and you know that would be the end all be all. And then we can bring it back to local. So I'm not in any Bitcoin trades right now. I was actually looking for, you know, this consolidation to have a bit of a lower shakeout, right? 107K, like, let's talk about consensus trades for a bit. Consensus trades on CT are something that I used to fade kind of religiously, right? If I saw a lot of people looking at a level, I used to always say, you know, that's not going to work out for them, right? Too many people planning the same thing, it's probably not going to work out for them. Lately, they have been working out a little bit better, right? I'm not sure why that is, but I think just, you know, meta flip, right? Whenever something becomes very, very popular, it flips on its head. So 107K, once again, was a very consensus long from my eyes. I don't spend a lot of time listening to other people's opinions or taking it all in. I just, you know, coincidentally heard it maybe 20 times. So I think it's very funny that, you know, once again, we front ran it. My plans going into the week was basically a shallow dip, right? If we had a Monday dip that just ran local lows, that would have been a long trigger for me. Obviously, we didn't get that, started the Sunday rip, and you guys know where we are now. So I'm not in any Bitcoin longs, and I'm actually not focused on Bitcoin for the first time probably this entire year. Most of my trading has been done on XPL recently and PUMPFUN. I think those are trading incredibly clean. I've given really good signals, high volatility, high volume. So that's where, you know, that's where I've been That's where I've been trading. And yeah, you know, if you've been paying attention to my streams this entire year, you guys know that I haven't traded altcoins pretty much at all this year, right? I've been just a Bitcoin trader, but it's fun to be trading alts again. So we're going to get into XPL and Pump. I also want to talk about ETH, ETHBTC, Bitcoin dominance. There's a lot to cover. I'm going to get caught up with chat, and then we'll get back into it. Ban the XRP guy? Nah, we don't ban XRP guy. Jeggers is cool. I haven't seen Jeggers in my chat in a long time. I think the last time we talked is we were talking about this rally or something like that. One of these ones is the last time we were in here. Will you post this after it's over? The streams are automatically uploaded, right? Like they don't, you know, it's uploaded right now. Can you look into a monthly Bitcoin log? It doesn't. So I don't use log personally ever because I don't think it provides much value, right? That's just the way I see it. I came into this market in like the 2020, 2021 cycle as a pure tourist, right? I didn't know shit about shit. And I thought log charts were smart to look at back then, right? And I don't think they are anymore. I think it pays better to stick to linear charts versus log charts. There's really nothing to look at here other than, you know, I think this is the longest trend in Bitcoin history, if I'm not mistaken. We're almost at 1,000 days, right? What is this one? 853 days, right? And many regard this as the best bull market because it literally just went up only for 2 years. And we've been doing that for longer now. We have not gone higher. We're not as parabolic, but it has been one steady, solid uptrend for longer. Why are you... Hey man, I was once upon a time I was making the XRP jokes too, right? And my whole thing around XRP was this chart, right? It wasn't XRP itself, it was XRP BTC, where it's like, yeah, it had one rally in 2017, or it was strong back then, and it's kind of done nothing since. So who cares about it, right? Like, why do we care about a coin doing this? But hey man, the XRP crowd proved us wrong. Like, this is a really strong rally. It outperformed a lot of our coins, did it not? It outperformed PEPE. From low to high is a 6x, 7x. PEPE didn't put in a 7x in Q4 last year. Can you do nobody at some point? Sure, later in the stream. What about Bitcoin dominance? Benjamin Cowan is that's a name I haven't heard in a long time. Extremely confident it'll go to 60. That's my, I don't know about the numbers, but my bias is up as well, right? Probably for different reasons, but same kind of conclusion. Here we go. So Bitcoin dominance has been in a downtrend since middle of July. And we confirmed this downtrend with a weekly trend loss, right? So the weekly trend has been extremely, extremely respected basically since the FTX bottom, right? We did have our shakeout, which is a little unfortunate. This time we nuked right through it. We got a bearish rejection and we dropped back into support. What are we doing here? The local trend would be the daily trend, rejection, rejection, rejection. We started rounding off at the lows, showing momentum loss at a key level, and we're starting to break above the daily trend, right? So the classic gap fill trade here would be from daily to weekly, and you said 60%, and I also agree, somewhere around 60%. To me, it seems like Bitcoin dominance will pop a little bit. $107 was the quarterly high of last year. Q4 is a great place to long. Nice, man. Can you explain a bit about VWAP and how you use it, and if there's lectures in Discord? Yeah, there's lectures in Discord on how to use it, or videos. VWAPs are, to me, they're just levels. Actually, I think instead of me covering it on stream, you could find a bunch of videos, whether they're in the Discord or just you could use YouTube search and watch someone else's video. They're not hard to understand. Can you look at AMD in a minute? Let me finish the couple of other things I'm looking at, and then we'll do it in a minute. Bro expected something called Monday dip, ape the highs or risk staying sideline. I think it's fantastic what Bitcoin did, or kind of like this is one of the most fun things for crypto for me is a meta gets established. Some people latch onto these things early, right? They're keen observers. They'll find these little clues in the markets and trend shifts and stuff early, and they'll be able to extract it for multiple weeks and multiple months. And eventually there's a little bit of edge decay. And by the time everyone kind of knows about these things, it'll kick them in the ass, right? So what are some of the ones that are interesting right now? One is don't trade weekends, right? I haven't really traded weekends this entire year. In fact, like I really thought hard about it during the weekend when I was trading. I was like, I literally cannot remember the last time I traded a weekend. I think it might have been somewhere in June for like a day when I was like traveling to Michigan. Maybe was it May or June? It was one of these. I don't remember, right? One day, but like that's it. So they say don't trade weekends, and 3 weekends in a row we've gotten bangers. Another strong one is don't ever long Bitcoin on Sunday going into New York Open, right? What do we get? New York Open straight up, right? So I think it's always interesting, like when these norms get kind of very distributed and everyone kind of knows that they shake up the game on them. Blue and red circles, market order bubbles. What are we seeing on ETH? Yeah, let's get into ETH next. Would be your SOL levels. I'll get into SOL in a minute. Log charts are a way to make your unrealistic targets look closer on the charts. Facts. 100%. Are you posting this? Yeah, I already answered that. Everything on stream gets posted. It's live right now, right? Like you could, it's not going anywhere. It's on YouTube. Can you explain a bit how you work with order books? That's going to be a long and complicated topic. I'm not doing much with order books other than looking at liquidity, right? So whether the books are skewed in favor of the ask or the bid, that's the main. I don't use like DOM or ladder, right? And the other things like that's passive flows, right? So I'm using it like order book liquidity for basically advertisements of people that want to get filled in certain locations, right? And kind of the skew between how strong price or how strong the ask is above price and how strong the bid is below price, and then that provides decent signals sometimes. Other than that, I look at a lot of active flow versus too much passive, right? So like stuff like Agger or watching open interest, that's more important to me. XPL 100%. Stream once a week, yes sir. Tips on how to grow 100K to $1,000 to 100K. Focus on turning $1,000 into $1,100 first. Don't worry about 100K. If you want to, gamble, I'm sure like there's strategies out there, but you won't find me, preaching those. Okay, let's get focused back up. We're caught up with chat. Let's go to ETH. So ETH, this is a high conviction region. I did not long ETH and I'm kicking myself a little bit. It's like a little bit of like, what do you call it? It sucks, but at the same time, I was hyper focused on XPL and that turned out to be unbelievable. So like, who cares, But the thing with ETH is this is a very clean level, right? Whether you just want to do it like this on a weekly chart and draw a horizontal line, right? Whether you want to look at the weekly trend and talk about how the daily trend loss is going to gap fill down to the weekly, right? Which is what we covered. The reason I did not punt ETH right here is because I thought that there could be a little bit more weakness on ETHBTC, right? I thought we could gap down to ETHBTC, and I said, basically, if we don't do this, it's probably Bitcoin's going to outperform for a little bit, right? So the ETH USD chart, right, bounced very strongly, but as you guys can tell so far, right, with Bitcoin, like our biases, Bitcoin dominance goes up, Bitcoin looks good, Bitcoin's outperforming ETH today. So that's the main core reason that prevented me from taking that ETH long. Nonetheless, there's a very strong possibility that ETHBTC can make it down here, but the ETH USD bottom is in. Do you guys understand what I'm saying? Bitcoin can just outperform to the upside, and ETHBTC can bleed down to that level, down to the weekly trend. And then you could play ETHBTC as a catch-up trade. You could basically say, yeah, I'm longing ETH higher on the USD chart, but I know, or at least my thesis is for this trade now, is that ETH should outperform Bitcoin from here, right? And I was looking for the confluence of both of those things. I didn't get the perfect like S-tier setup, so I ended up not taking it, and I will cover XPL in a minute. that's pretty much all I need to talk about for ETH, right? There's not too much more. This was the kind of game plan that we laid out on Twitter and everything like that, which is basically when the daily trend is lost, we're looking for a gap down to the weekly. I think I posted this somewhere up here. It did actually end up, tagging the weekly perfectly. Then the next thing for relief was 4-hour trend break. Since we were crabbing on the weekend right at the 4-hour trend, for me, right, I'm not going to long right into this 4-hour trend right here. If I was going to be aggressive about it, I would have done it last week on Thursday. I did not do that, right, because of the ETHBTC argument that I was making. Unfortunate, but it is what it is. Then the trade from here comes. If you break the 4-hour downtrend, you will probably gap up to the daily, right? So that's what you're seeing playing out right now. 4-hour trend break, gap up to the daily. Resistance is going to be met with local kind of bearish order block. This prior composite value area low, which is multi-week, right? Maybe a couple months. What is this? 43 days, right? Almost 6 weeks of this composite value built up, right? So you've got your composite value area low, you've got your daily trend, which was support for multiple months, has now flipped to bearishly, so it'll probably be local resistance. The EV of this trade is probably close to capped. From here, you're probably going to get a little bit more chop, right? Acceptance above this composite value area low, plus the daily trend, you open up the opportunity for like 4,600, right? So from here, I don't think it's a very clean place to open up an ETH trade if you didn't long the lows or long the compression or anything like this. There's a very awkward place to be opening up any type of ETH long, in my opinion, right? You either wait for a break higher and acceptance back into this prior comp, or you wait lower. Maybe you get a second tag of that weekly trend. Very awkward location at the moment. Let's keep going. I'll get back to chat in a minute. What do I want to do next? We talked about BTC.D. Could do Sol, Hype, and then we'll get into altcoins. Okay, with Solana. I've talked to you guys about this a lot of times where, the meta for trading Solana, basically silver platter, anyone who paid attention to this probably printed on Solana several times, right? The meta on Solana for the past several weeks has been you bid at the daily trend, you sell or close your positions on H1 trend loss, right? So here's 1, here's 2, 3, 4. You guys can see how many times this played out, the cleanest signal ever. And what am I doing here? I'm just taking the data that the market is providing me. I'm not doing anything else that's fancy, right? Clean daily trend tag, H1 trend loss. A lot of people were bullish up here. I always say ABCs of trend loss. A, you expect range. B, you expect drawdown to the next most dominant location of support. And then C is the lowest EV, which is reclaim and continuation, right? So anytime you lose trend, you take a step back. This would have been the place for Solana to bottom. Obviously, Bitcoin had a lot of weakness, and you lost the daily trend. When you lose the daily trend, we always talk about daily trend gap fill to the weekly, right? The weekly trend is where you bottomed. Whether you're using an EMA system of daily to weekly, or you use your VWAP system of the quarterly value area high to the quarterly rotation, both of those were very, very clean. So here's Solana, right? Attempting to take its take value away from the quarterly, hold above the quarterly. This would have been the area for it to hold. When it fails, rotation back inside. There's your quarterly VWAP tag. So if you guys remember what I was talking about earlier on Bitcoin about the necessity for it to hold outside a yearly value, this is what will likely happen to Bitcoin if it starts holding within that yearly value, right? So we'll just pivot back to Bitcoin. I'll show you exactly what I mean. Why do I always select this one? Right. This is what you don't want to. You don't want to see Bitcoin holding below 110, 109K. It's fantastic that we keep getting bids here, because if it does, it really does bring in 199K into play. Can you link the CME highlighter that you use? So it's shout out to Moke for building it. It's in Discord. You can grab it in there. It's not public. All right, let's move on. Hopefully Solana is all clear. Actually, I didn't even map out game plans for Solana. We just kind of talked about where we're at. Didn't finish this. Okay, Solana. Now, wedged between weekly trend support, daily trend resistance. Once again, I suspect the most likely scenario is probably chop between these two levels. 110K, very clean resistance, daily trend, yearly value area high, this is a very strong location to break, right? What bulls want to see is get back above 110 and flip it to support, right? This is the most, you know, clean level that you could use on SOL at the moment, is around 110. You want to continue to be optimistic at the weekly if it's revisited. Otherwise, you wait for a God candle breakout and then a little bit of a retrace, and then you can look to play momentum. Whatever the trend was for the breakout and the retest that was holding here, you continue to take bets off that trend. Sometimes it'll be the daily. Most likely, if it happened right now, it's going to be a much lower time frame trend. So the TLDR on Solana, be optimistic at quarterly VWAP / weekly trend. You know, mid to low 190s if given again. Hyperliquid. Hyperliquid. All right. Anytime I get asked about Hyperliquid, I give you guys the exact same answer, which is Hyperliquid has been purely rotational on the quarterly, right? Hyperliquid has not been giving me very clean signals off of EMAs. The best signal that you could have for Hyperliquid is that it is purely rotational on the quarterly, right? Every failure to break above the quarterly value area high and expand has led to a rotation back to the lows. Every low that failed to break down and got back inside led to a rotation of the highs, right? It's been rotational. This was the most optimistic look because rather than holding the value area low as support, you started respecting the quarterly VWAP, which led to your big expansion. When you drop back down, what you want to see Hyperliquid bulls do is defend the quarterly value area high for continuation, right? That's how you turn kind of a range-bound VWAP into a trending VWAP. First, you start with holding the VWAP. The next thing is you try to hold the value area high. Let me give you an example of this on Bitcoin on the monthly. We did this month. Right? So you start off kind of rotational and choppy. Eventually you start holding the monthly VWAP instead of trading down to the value area low. Then you could use your monthly value area highs trade signals. When you rotate back in, you guys see the rest. So back to Hyperliquid. So the key location on Hyperliquid, again, is going to be your quarterly value area low. If you can start holding above the quarterly VWAP right here, right? This is if you want to chase this current momentum. It would be 145.5 kind of line in the sand, which will allow you to aim for 50, right? Below this, it probably bleeds back out down to the lows, right? Nice sharp rally, right, off the lows. I think big recovery, 20% relief bounce, probably capped in the interim, right? How does ETH respect the CME chart? Not as well as Bitcoin. Bitcoin is the king. Top is in when Tether chairman Giancarlo becomes richer than Elon Musk. How far away is that? How much of Tether, the company, does he own? Because if they're raising at, what, $500 billion valuation, does he own like 50% of it? Because then he's already close to Elon, right? What's the name of the VWAP suite? This is the Paragon VWAP suite. You don't need the Paragon VWAP suite. You can just use regular VWAPs in here and set them yourself. You can use the built-in trading view one if you like. You just gotta add the standard deviation 1 and standard deviation 2. And then you can make a chart with 4 panels and make the top left the yearly, this the quarterly, this the monthly, this the weekly. No means an XRP guy, but the USG chart looks decent and the XRP Bitcoin chart looks almost ready. Yeah, so one of the things that I've kind of been pointing out on XRP is how well that it's respected the weekly trend in the face of brutal weakness across the market, right? This was our tariff FUD, right? And what did it do? What did XRP do during the world-ending FUD that was the tariff time? It swept the lows on the weekly and reclaimed a range low. It held the weekly trend, right? These have been very clean signals on XRP, right? Again, when we're crabbing in this location in June and July, it leads to a big blast off. Anytime someone asks me about XRP, this is kind of what I tell them. I think someone was asking me about this up here, and I was like, you just want to bid at the weekly, right? That's been the meta on XRP, so you want to be bullish on XRP at the weekly trend. Once again, over the weekend, we were trading into the weekly trend last week and the weekend. So if you want to stack XRP, this is the place to do it. Who taught you how to trade? I'd like to say I'm self-taught, but the reality is I've learned so much from so many different people. I've never had like a mentor or anything like that, if that's what you're asking. But there's so many clues that I've picked up from so many people, you know, Trader XO on price action and, you know, range bound trading basically taught me the fundamentals, taught me how to think about invalidations over stop losses, right? That really helped save me a lot of money when I was wrong in an idea. I didn't just cut it because of just, oh, it tagged this X line. It was, yeah, this trade thesis is not working out. This is not what I want to see, right? He helped me think in those terms. Magus, obviously, who I credit probably every week. Pierre, who I credit for the EMA system. Mercury, who's helped a lot with a lot of trading psychology. A lot of the goats out there, you know, a Wawat for teaching me to play strength. And there's so many people, right? There's so many good traders out there that you pick, you know, pieces from. And then eventually when it comes to trading yourself, you basically build your foundation on what you're most comfortable with, what you have the best hit rate with, what you enjoy the most, and then eventually with experience and time, you start picking up on things that other people don't in the market. That's how you end up building your own system. You learn what trades that are high hit rate for you. You learn what time frames you like to trade based on your own temperament and you know, whatever. Some people are not that patient. They have to trade intraday. Some people are this, some people are that, right? So all of these things factor in over a long time span. AVAX, we can do AVAX. Cards, maybe not. He has like 20% of tether. That's still a lot. It's not 100 billion. AVNT, AVNT. How do you combine trading technical and conviction plays? The only thing you would add if you have conviction for like a fundamental reason a coin should go up, you don't need to min-max your trading as much, right? If you have a fundamental reason why you're betting on a coin, you don't need to like cut just because like a level is lost. You just understand that it's going to be painful and that's the price that you're willing to pay. You're going to have to pay based on opportunity cost too, because your coin probably won't be in the spotlight for a long time. Is this something that I recommend to a lot of people? No, I think that the best thing is kind of just trade and long whatever the market is deemed winners. There's much smarter people in this market than we are, right? And if we, you know, allow the market to tell us which coins are strong and try to focus on those, we'll have a much better time. There's very few times where you want to take a non-consensus bet. Did you talk about Plasma yet? Not yet. He owns half of Tether. Jesus, 250 billion. There you go, dude. What is Elon worth? He's probably around there, like 300 billion. I don't know what Elon's worth. I don't know what anyone's worth nowadays. Numbers are fake. Okay. I'll be right back. I'm going to grab a cup of water. Just finish the coffee. My mouth is dry. I'll be back in a second. We'll do altcoins. All right, we're back. All right, shall we get into alts? Let's see, where do I want to start? We can start with PUMPFUN. So PUMPFUN, I had two ideas for this last week. Number one was if we can find a bottom at the daily trend and break through the 4-hour downtrend, right? That's going to lead to a big relief rally. What did we do? We spent a lot of time crabbing here. You know, this looked pretty damn hopeful. We did bounce on the 4-hour trend. We got rejected, and this is basically when Bitcoin kind of fell apart, right? Bitcoin traded down to 108 or whatever it was. and the whole market kind of fell with it, right? Then PUMPFUN tried the exact same thing. We bottomed out. This was the second location that I talked about. If the daily trend fails, we're gonna probably drop to 50. We ended up dropping to 50. We did the exact same thing. We crabbed sideways. The 4-hour downtrend came down. We started compressing underneath it, and we got that massive pop. I TP'd 30% of my bag into this pop. I just kind of didn't like that, you know, everyone is in this trade, right? And everyone is shilling it. That's kind of an uncomfy thing, especially for a Sunday, right? So I paid myself a little bit on this, and I picked some of it back off this 4-hour trend. I'm not full-sized anymore, but I still like this coin. I still like the thesis. I think this is an extreme discount, but I think that we can revisit these lows, right? We don't have to go into this meta where we continuously change from an extremely strong uptrend to an extremely strong downtrend to an extremely strong uptrend again. I think betting on this to do that immediately is probably a lower likelihood. I think there's a decent opportunity we could push a little bit higher, maybe take out these equal highs, but I think a lot of people are looking at the exact same thing. Now, what's cleaner for me is the opposite thing that I talked about, which was on the monthly VWAP. These levels are tremendously clean, right? Just like the 4-hour trend, this is telling you that we spent all this time outside of the monthly value. When we dropped inside, we traded all the way down, right? I was hoping that the monthly VWAP would give us some level of support. It did not. We blasted right through it. We ended up using the monthly as resistance. We traded all the way down, got that momentum loss. That's what the rejection was, right? So what PUMPFUN needs to do is actually break back above the monthly VWAP. Right, this is our resistance until proven otherwise. If we come back into this kind of accumulation range area, I think it's opportunity for PUMPFUN, because this will probably break eventually. It just probably won't break the first time around, right? If Bitcoin continues momentum, it gives PUMPFUN the opportunity to break this, but without Bitcoin doing it, I don't see PUMPFUN doing it on its own. All right, should we get into Plasma? This is the coin of the week. I had so much fun trading Plasma over the past couple days. Like I said, I don't normally trade weekends, but this was an exception. New coin launch. What led me to be bullish on this one was not really the underlying fundamentals or anything like that. Like you guys know, Doc is pretty dumb when it comes to fundamentals, right? I don't really trade like that, but I understand attention. And I understand early meta shifts. So what do we see? We see 2 weekends in a row. One weekend where PUMPFUN goes crazy, the next weekend where ASTER goes crazy, and then we have a brand new coin launch, which is pretty hyped. We're in the right environment for new coin launches. You know, the smart people are saying bullish things about it. Great, right? Early price action is up only. We got consolidation. That's where we have like ideas building, where we can start taking trades. I did catch some of this, but it wasn't like the best size trade, but I did catch a lot of this. This is where we started pounding the trades over the weekend, and it was fantastic. And the thing that I nailed over this weekend was I took the money that I made on perps here and bridged it over to Plasma and sent it into that trillions shitcoin, which then ended up 4xing in the same day, right? And I took some out on the way up, but I only really locked in like a 2.5x, 2.3x. Out of all of that, right? I didn't like perfectly nail the full 4x, but insanely good weekend for me. Over here, we got another compression trade, which was really nice. Trading back the composite value area low. Most dominant trend for this move right here was the 30-minute downtrend. That starts compressing and breaking. This gives me the opportunity to bet at composite value area low to the highs. I was looking for an overextension, so I left a runner. The runner round tripped on me, which is unfortunate, but you know, blocked in another one here. Almost the exact same scenario this morning, right? First test of the listing anchored VWAP. Really good opportunity to take a long. This is a long that I took this morning. We swept a high. I took profits into this just because it was like an 8% pump in an hour, right? Really strong pump in 1 hour. I wanted to look for the confluence of this prior composite value area low with this swing high, right? So I was looking for that. It round tripped on me. I set the rest of the stops to break even and probably got stopped at break even. Well, I did get stopped at break even. I haven't looked at the chart, but that's exactly what happened here. So the first test of any region gives you your best opportunity. The second test, you're going to need more structure. So what we want to look for in this location is probably a compression, right? We want to continue holding the listing anchored. We want to bring the trends down, and we want to push up into them, right? compress through this. That's what we're basically looking for at this location. It is against us at the moment as bulls. If the listing anchored is broken, all that tells me, based on trading a lot of new coins over the years, is that this is probably going to be in prolonged sideways at best, right? A prolonged range at best. And at worst, it's going to enter a downtrend, right? So, you know, maybe we can use, I don't know, I didn't trade pump too much when it launched, but let's look back. Not the right chart. Who listed pump on TGE? Did Bybit do it? So what you don't want as an XPL holder, right? This obviously didn't show fantastic respect for the listing anchored, but XPL itself has been trading over the listing anchored. So when it drops below, if it starts accepting below, what you want to see is a range form, right? You want the lows to be held, and you want it to ping pong and build value sideways. If it fails to do so, it opens up the opportunity for a big bleeder, which is not what you want to see. So keep that in mind when it comes to XPL. We can go back to this chart now and look at it. So this is the location where if it's going to continue to be strong, we need to show respect for it, right? It's already looking very weak. The next case scenario is that these lows must hold. If we start trading below this, trading below the anchor, trading below these lows, it opens up the possibility for this to bleed pretty hard. So definitely keep that in mind. If you're like overexposed to this, just understand the downside risk. Brand new coins often do this. They pump really hard at TGE, and then, you know, they can turn into big doo-doo bleeders. Why does this say non-CME highlighter? Because those are the hours when the CME is closed. So this is when BTC CME closes. This is when it reopens. Those are your CME hours. There's your XPL alert. Elon is around 400 billion. That's a lot, man. Tesla offered Elon a $1 trillion pay package a week ago? No way. Jesus. Give me some pure copium. Lie to me. No, we're not gonna do that. We gotta spit the truth, man. Please break down those. Okay, so this one was purely like the thesis behind this trade was that XPL will have fun on the weekend, right? So the trade thesis was very simple. It was, if we sell off going to the weekend, I want to be long XPL because I think it'll do well this weekend. It is bonus added confluence that I traded towards composite value area low. I was opening myself up for the possibility of a listing anchored tag, right? So I kept that in mind. I don't want to invalidate myself below this. Once we started getting the market structure break, that's when you can like adjust your stops. And that was really it. The composite, excuse me, the 2 standard deviation value area high off the listing anchored was the TP, right? From here, trend trade and above daily VWAP, right? So when something is very strong, consensus levels tend to get front run. I was basically looking for XPL on this day to hold above the daily VWAP, right? This was the sell-off coming in. When there is a brand new candle forming, sometimes you get volatility on both sides, right? Even if the trend is up, you may get a down move early on that candle opening. This was a fresh 4-hour candle open. It sold off immediately. I wanted to be bullish at the daily VWAP. It did not tag the daily VWAP. That was kind of my cue signal to like, okay, be a little bit more aggressive here. TP at your daily value area high, 2 standard deviation value area high. This trade from last night was a compression trade. I talked about that. This trade was the first test of the listing anchored. We talked about that. What is the best way to use anchored VWAPs? Anchor them either to like all-time highs or the major swing lows before the start of an aggressive rally, or the listing candle. Don't use this candle though. Don't use this one. This one's just nonsense. Irrelevant data. Anchor it to the very next candle. If you're doing it on lower time frames, you can do it on lower time frames, but just don't anchor it to this candle. Yeah, the best trade of the weekend was this one, right? We nailed these two, and I took this money and went straight on chain. I took all the profits, went on chain. I didn't lock in the 4x though, but we can't be perfect. It's like 2.2x or something. AMD, yeah, you're right. I forgot about that. I can look at AMD in a minute. Thoughts on memes in general? I went over this earlier. Well, actually, I just went over PEPE. If Bitcoin puts in a price discovery trade where we get a really strong expansion away from the like 120s, I think everything in crypto will get a rotation, right? You'll have a DeFi rotation, a boomer coin rotation, a stable coin rotation, whatever, perp dex. You'll get a rotation of every narrative in crypto, and memes will get their own rotation. Thoughts on ASTER? Good one. I don't really like this coin that much. I have never traded it. I never bought it. I've never done anything with it. This was a setup that I didn't actually take, but it popped up really hard. All right, we're confined within this weekly value. Value area low, value area high, being cleanly respected. New VWAP, probably expected to come back towards the lows. You want to be bullish at 162. If you can catch a trade here, the ideal place would be like 215. TP1 should be like mid-range, which is last week's VWAP. I think that's pretty damn clean. From a trend perspective, I doubt there's any trends on here that are super relevant. Let's see. Yeah. The hourly trend was pretty clean, flattened out, giving you kind of no signal at the moment. This is just purely crabby price action. Probably lost a little bit of mind share. I think a coin like this probably has to trade sideways for a little bit longer, and you just want to bid it at discounts if you can. Even if you want to do just clean horizontal levels, this lines up pretty cleanly with that last week's value area low. So 163, right? If you get this, you can set alert down here, and it would help if you had some Bitcoin confluence in this region. When would you look for a long at XPL? Not at the moment. Maybe here at 112. Nothing right now. Probably at 112-ish. Reminds me. One sec. Open, high, low. How to use those for anchored VWAPs? Let me see what you're talking about. This is what I have it set on. So it's basically just the midpoint of the candle. And then, yeah, standard deviation, band multiplier 1 if you want the upper and lower. I have a preset for this. Oops. So yeah, somewhere somewhere at 112. Probably a sweep of these equal lows. Maybe drops a little bit lower to the 1 standard deviation value area low. Somewhere in this region would be a good place to start looking for longs again. Other than that, right, the way this price action looks like, setting a lower low here, I would need to see some sort of compression form first. And what I mean by that is we need to press into this trend, show support at the lows, and bully the trend upwards, right? Compress into it. The same way that PUMPFUN did. Right? Build a base and start pressing into the trend. All right, let's do AMD. Last time I looked at this stock was probably end of 2022. Not bad. Not bad. Let's see if there's any confluence here. Okay. So yearly value area high, right? Traded below the yearly, rotated outside, blasted above. This is the first test of yearly value area high, and you're getting momentum loss up here. I don't think it looks bad. I think bidding this location with an invalidation below makes a lot of sense. AVAX. All right, a few more of these before I get exhausted. Let's see what we talked about here. I don't know when I drew this doodle. I don't remember the last time I looked at AVAX. All right, so from looking at this, very clean respect for the 4-hour trend, you would have wanted to see daily trend be the bottom. Trading below this tells me that we're not really holding the daily end. I don't think you probably... Oh, maybe. Maybe. Has this been respected in recent times? Not the best. So I guess that's pretty much par for the course. I'm pretty sure I remember someone asked me about this here, and I thought that this was a good place to TP. Probably because of the yearly. So correct me if I'm wrong. AVAX had some, you know, treasury company bid or something like that, or they announced it and the market front ran those flows. I'm pretty sure that's what happened with AVAX here, correct? I think it needs a little bit more time. I think if you wanted to be bullish on this one, at this point, like if we're looking for a new trend, we need the daily trend to hold. You need this current structure to hold, and you need the daily trend to hold. Outside of that, not much. This red line that I have, something. What is it? It's not a chart that I look at often. Oh yeah, all right. Resistance flipping to support. Yeah, I think the most optimistic outlook for something like AVAX from here is that you continue holding the daily, right? A couple days of holding this would look really good for relief to the upside. What you absolutely do not want to see AVAX do at this point is trade below 27. So we need to get back outside of yearly value area high. That's your local resistance at this point. You need to hold the daily trend as support. It's hard invalidation in my opinion with acceptance below 27. Wait, Magus is long? Buying XPL stops at 102. All right, let's see how Magus is trading this. Let me see if I can reverse engineer his brain. What did Magus see? He sees someone coming in, being aggressive down here. Strong selling. Can't tell what this is. Probably a long opening. So he's just waiting for some Chad to carry it. This is a good place to look for it as your 2 standard deviation value area low. Stops at 102 though. So you're not trading this intraday. The stop makes sense to me. If you get a reaction here, you want it to be pretty strong. Maybe he's just memeing too. I'll never know. Yes, look at the volume at the weekly and the monthly. All right, let's do that. You've caught my interest. I'm pretty sure you're talking about AVAX. Well, that's certainly some effort coming in. So the thing with volume, there's nuance to it, right? With volume, you want that effort to be rewarded, right? Anyone that's coming in and putting a lot of effort into the books with volume, whether that's just like, you know, a couple entities or just, you know, the entire market is really trying to push price up, you want that effort to be rewarded. High volume that goes unrewarded is definitely a bearish sign. High volume that goes rewarded is a pretty optimistic bullish sign. So wait for this to load. I'm assuming that came in somewhere up here. So yeah, a lot of effort came in towards these highs that went immediately unrewarded, right? Transfer of coins, maybe someone aggressively buying, getting stuffed by some limit orders, right? That led to your big kind of drawdown. This thing continues to bleed. Can you look at World Liberty? Shitcoin. I mean, why trade this? Maybe there's a better chart. There you go, a little bit better. Does not look that good to me. Looks pretty bad, in fact. I would suggest not trading this until it had momentum above 24, or try to be optimistic down at 19. Where it is right now, I don't think it's worth it. I don't think this is a coin that's worth like focusing on unless you're trying to focus on crime, and the whole thesis is, well, the Trump people will crime this up. They'll make some crime headline and pump it pretty hard. So if you wanted to do something like that, be optimistic at 19. Don't hold a bleed below 19, or wait for some momentum or a narrative or something and trade into that. Start thinking. Which EMAs is this on the daily? I'm gonna put the command in there for you. Check chat. You'll see all the trends in there. Okay. Take a step back. Let's see how Bitcoin's doing. Probably failing to break above these highs. A lot of effort coming in this morning. Really heavy volume coming in. SFP of the highs. We're trading outside of our little mini comp that we built up here at the last lows. This has been clean rotational signals, right? Resistance, failed breakout, you know, trade from the highs to the lows. Crowd between the lows, except back inside, blast the other side. Let's see how the 15-minute trend is doing. This is our continuation signal. As long as we're holding the 15-minute trend, I think Bitcoin continues to go higher. When the 15-minute trend fails, I expect this to turn into a little bit of a range and start getting choppy. As long as this is held, we maintain higher targets for now. The optimistic upside targets for Bitcoin: 114.6, 115.2. So 114, high 114 is 115. These two right here. I think when you get into this, if you were long, that's probably where you de-risk. At this point, like if I was long, I would already be scaling out, because if the trade thesis was such, right, who cares where you long? Let's just say somewhere in here. And your idea was this, you've already made it like 80-90% of the way to your target, right? This is where the evolving R diminishes, right? So you ask yourself, if you're sitting on unrealized P&L, would you ever take this trade? The answer is obviously going to be no. You would never long here with your stop there and your take profit here, right? So it makes less and less sense to hold on to the positions the closer you get to your target. Something that saved me a lot of money. Oh, another one I wanted to talk about was Athena. So this is performing pretty poorly, but it's something that I have been kind of optimistically watching. I have been looking for this to break the 4-hour downtrend. This is a god downtrend, right? Little bit of a fake out. This is something that I was watching last night. Thankfully, I didn't end up taking a trade on it. It would have been an unnecessary loss. I was just tired from the weekend, and we got the XPL trade. But this is something that I'm like optimistic about. But what it needs to do is break the 4-hour downtrend, and it needs to get back above 60 cents. This is your first weekly trend test, right? So the daily trend has been pretty goated on this asset. Look at how clean the daily trend was. When the daily trend is lost, it ends up being a range. A daily trend breakdown, weekly trend tag. What the weekly trend needs to do here is help it form a bottom and get above 60 cents. Not looking great so far, but this is what we want to see. Alt's not doing great today, but Bitcoin doing fine. And a lot of that, I think, is this Bitcoin dominance outlook that we talked about earlier in the stream. So I do think Bitcoin dominance is geared up to go a little bit higher. The first time I posted about this was somewhere over here. Hit the like button or your favorite coin will die in the next hour. Can't even see likes on OBS. I have to open YouTube. I don't know what they're at. By the way, AI agent narrative that we see last year is out of the universe. I don't know what that means, but I think, you know, that's probably like a one-time run. Look into Bitcoin the meme. Harry Potter, Sonic, Obama, 10 Inu. Haven't traded this coin since 2023. Yeah, it just looks irrelevant. It's just another coin that looks irrelevant. This was like god tier resistance forever. It had one opportunity to like break away. You know, people tried to hold this support resistance flip. It failed. It went right back to the lows. It's like, even if it pumps, you know, the best you can hope for is probably 18 again, which is not, I mean, it's not bad. It's an 80% pump from current price. It's just probably not super important to focus on this one. All right. Anyone have any questions that are not chart requests? Let's change it up a bit. We've been doing chart requests for like 30 minutes straight. What did we mention earlier? 114.5, 115.1. If we can get above this, have some low time frame resistance here too. Let me pull up Agger and see what's going on. Spot has been selling since for a while now. They've been selling since this morning's like New York Open high. Advice on hedging spot. That's a good question for Magus. I don't hedge spot. If I'm feeling uncomfy, I just sell it. I don't, stay spot long and then perp short or, future short. Magus does that. He does it really well. His advice over the years has always been that it's a more difficult game than people say. They think it's easier and he finds it more challenging. It's something that he does, and he does very well. I've seen him hedge his Bitcoin stack at the top like 3 times this cycle perfectly. But yeah, that's not something that I do, right? So it's a really good question for him. His stream will be tomorrow, so you can tune into his stream and ask him that question. Close the short and profit too early. So yeah, that's always been his number one advice is don't trade. The hedge is not meant to be traded. The hedge is a hedge. Like you're not supposed to try to make money on the hedge. The hedge is there to protect your capital, right? So the goal of the hedge is to lose money on it. Like what you're supposed to do is try to hedge when you find that the market is a little frothy, risky, trends breaking, yada yada, and not try to close out the hedge at a low, not try to time the low, but rather round trip the hedge and say, okay, the market's ready to be bullish again, and then you just remove the hedge, right? And you let the spot do the work again. Please do AVNT. Oh yeah, I remember someone asking that. Wow. Full market cycle. Trend up, trend loss, new downtrend. It's getting hammered. Would not buy this until it went sideways and flipped this trend. This is a level where you could look for that to happen around 96. But yeah, it needs to start going sideways and needs to flip this downtrend. Obviously better to perfect both, but which would you say is more important, asset selection or position sizing? Position sizing is the hardest thing for people to master because naturally people are more greedy and they always want to bet big. And it's hard for people to understand that small bet sizing, especially early on while you're building a skill set, is pretty important because you want to hone in on the skill set rather than stressing yourself out. Trading in itself is hard. Right? It's really, really, really hard. It's not an easy thing to do. Few are able to cross the barrier. Like a lot of people can get to the break-even status where they can, equalize their wins and losses. They don't really make any, they don't lose a bunch of money. They don't make a bunch of money. They kind of just trade break-even. Being profitable is a very small group of people, right? So what I would say early on, focus on the skill set. And don't trade to try to make money. Trade to try to get better. Trade to try to get better decision making and stuff like that. So early on, focus on smaller position sizing. When you have something that works for you consistently, you have data to prove it, you have 3 months, 6 months of data to prove it, then you start increasing position sizing. What was the other part of your question? Did you delete it or where did it go? Oh, there it is. Asset selection. Asset selection is equally important, I think. There's something to be said about not trading the strongest coin in the market as long as you have rhythm with it, right? Each coin has its own little intricacies, right? Some coins, as you guys can see through my streams, trade better on VWAP, some trade better on EMAs, some trade better on price action. You have to understand the asset that you're trading and how it trades. You can get in rhythm with it and you can keep nailing those trades or keep sending those trades. a lot of people try to always trade the strongest coin in the market, right? Every single week there's a new strong coin and they're always trying to trade the strongest coin. I think that is a skill set in and of itself. I know that there's traders out here that only focus on that, and they've honed their edge in doing so. That's not something that I do, right? I don't look for the strongest coin of the week and trade that coin. I focus on, you know, like this year, for example, take me for example, I just trade Bitcoin, right? I have really good rhythm with Bitcoin, and I barely ever traded alts, right? I talked a lot about XPL, because, you know, I found rhythm with it. I thought it traded really well. I had a thesis for why it should trade well. It was respecting my system, respecting my levels, so it's something I kept sending this weekend. And the case, or why that even formed for me, is I recognized the meta in the market, which was we were sending altcoins a specific, you know, main character altcoin every weekend for 2 weekends in a row. There's a brand new coin. It's being talked about. It's hyped. It's very possible that it could get main charactered over the weekend again, right? So that thesis played out very, very well over the weekend. Is the VWAP scan template in Paragon? Yes. But I'm not going to shill you to join Paragon for the VWAP scan template. You can, you know, you can build your own. But yes, it's in there. There's tons of indicators in there. There's so much value in Paragon. Can you talk a little bit about how you trade diagonal breakouts? So I think what you mean is something like this. So I prefer EMAs for those, not a diagonal trend line. So a lot of people like these where it's like, you know, coin is trading, it hits resistance, it hits resistance, it hit resistance, and they, you know, trade this breakout. I don't do that. I do it with EMAs. I call it the compression trade. Sometimes you can get this between two EMAs, right? A very strong downtrending, lower time frame, medium time frame EMA, and a very strong uptrending EMA, right? The place where you want to bet is at the high time frame EMA. Sometimes this is just a horizontal level. Sometimes it's a VWAP, right? The place you want to bet is on the stronger level, the Goliath one, right? The strong one, right? If you want to play the breakout, right, and you get a strong candle close above it, so let's redraw this. Let's say, you know, this is the EMA, and you get a very strong candle close above it, your invalidation immediately becomes retracing the God candle, right? A lot of times these form pretty close to resistance, right? And if you can get a pullback on the next candle, you can long into this with this being your invalidation. How do you feel the most recent visit to 110K constitute higher low? That's a piece or above. Would you need a higher high? So am I calling this a higher low yet? No, you need a higher high for that to form. But you can speculate it. You don't have to get like confirmation in order to say it. You can speculate it on it being a higher low. What odds would I put on it being the higher low? It's a good question. What odds would I put on it? I'd say 65%, so 2/3 odds of it being the higher low. I can see a situation where we take out this, and if you want the whole Bitcoin outlook I talked about at the beginning of the stream, it's probably like 20 minutes or 15 minutes after the stream started, because I talked chat a little bit, and then I went and spoke about Bitcoin for a while. So you can go back and hear all the thoughts on that. At what point would you say that we're seeing the market structure shift that Magus has been waiting on Bitcoin? So what I would say, right, this is a very, very, very strong down move, right? This is a weaker down move. Both of these are getting pretty solid relief, and it's happening in a location where Bitcoin should continue to see that strength, right? The yearly value rate high, 1, 2 times, 3 times, 4 times. Every time we've kind of traded in this region, we've gotten really good bounces. Really, really good buying at these lows, right? So I'm already speculating on this being that kind of momentum loss for the bears on super high time frame, right? We traded in this level twice. Bears have failed to kind of break us down both times. They've had every opportunity, right? Dead weekend. If some Chad out there with size wanted to break Bitcoin down over the weekend on a liquid time when it's trading like this, let me show you Bitcoin's weekend price action, just so we're clear. When it's trading like this, let's even remove these. Zero volatility multiple candles where there's literally zero volume coming in. Like Bitcoin for here for like 6 minutes and didn't even move. If someone wanted to break us down so badly, that was their opportunity to do so, right? So I'm already kind of seeing that momentum shift in favor of the bulls. How do you choose coins to trade? Like I mentioned, I just mainly trade Bitcoin. Back in the day, I used to scan like the entire watch list on Sundays. This is back in like 2023. The origin of this stream, for those of you guys who don't know, a little bit of lore of how this stream even came to be, is I would take the Binance Perp book, like every coin that was listed on Binance Perps, and just go through them one by one on Sundays. And sometimes I would stream it. And I would look through each coin, I'd look through levels, I'd look through what looks good, I'd make game plans for myself, I'd mark up my charts, I'd set alerts, and if any of those alerts like dinged during the week, I would already have the plan on that chart. So I'd open up that, I'd get the alert, I'd open up the chart, I'd remind myself what the setup was, why I was looking for it, and then that's how I would take it. So I just, the finding plans back in the day used to be literally scanning the entire market. I don't do that anymore though. I make my life simpler. I just trade Bitcoin most of the time. Can you add the ticker symbol and time frame? It's down here. I know mine looks different, but it's right here. For high time frame positional trading, you eat drawdowns on the way to higher prices. How do you know whether it's a dip? EMAs mainly, right? So if the trend that carried you breaks, that's a very good opportunity to de-risk your bag. Here's a clean example from recently. 4-hour trend carried you from 20 cents to 90 cents. When this breaks, yes, you didn't capture the high, but this is where you can de-risk. You can look at a smaller example on something like SOL, right? We talked about this meta a lot. How every time the hourly trend is being lost, it is correcting hardcore, right? Every single time. These are, let me get rid of these so they don't, every single time the hourly trend is lost, it's correcting pretty strongly. So you can use that as a trade as well, right? Whether it's positional or perp, intra-week, multi-week, multi-month. Has ETH lost its speculative premium? I think ETH gets one more rally. I think we're gonna hold the ETHBTC weekly trend and we'll probably push up one more time. I want to see this region hold mid 30s, mid to low 30s. If and when it does, I think ETHBTC is going to put in a higher high. Background soundtrack. Most of these songs, well, it's a mix, but a lot of them are by Tenno, who is in the description. Description of the stream. You'll find his name in there. How much do you de-risk when the main trend is lost? Depending on your targets for the overall trade. So the closer you are to seeing your trade play out, the more profits you should take. Also depends on the strength of the move, right? There are times like back last year in Q1 going into Q2, PEPE did a 10x in a few weeks. I initially took 50% of the position off, and then I ended up taking up 80% of the position off. So it's really going to depend on the asset. There's times where I full stack the entire thing because my conviction is lower. There's times where my conviction is higher, and I'm like, we haven't flipped SHIB yet. I don't want to see this, I don't want to take everything off. But when something does a 10x off the 4-hour trend and breaks, this is a very strong place to remove positioning. And then if you lose the daily trend too, you know that further drawdown is coming. Had I not done this, from that level, it's 55% of your gains that you gave up. So it's like, it's pretty brutal. A lot of 4-hour to daily gaps on alts right now. Yeah. Now, if you want to filter your coins, you just basically look across the market and say which coins have broken the 4-hour trends and which coins are still getting stuck by them. Cookbook is out. Yeah, go check out the cookbook, guys. If you want to do me a favor, if you enjoy these streams, this is just, I do this every week. If you want to, you know, give thanks, whether it's a like or a sub, or check out the cookbook, right? Subscribe to the cookbook. Do you find leverage necessary to use when trading Bitcoin? I do, because I don't want to keep the majority of my money on an exchange. The position sizing doesn't change. Whether I was trading spot or perps, the position sizing would be the exact same. I keep less money on the exchange so that I can get the exact same position sizing just using leverage. The risk doesn't change. The amount of loss per trade doesn't change. The amount of gain per trade doesn't change. The trade is the exact same. I use perps for trading Bitcoin because why put hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars on exchanges? You can get the same sizing just using perps. Are you long RIVN? I bought a bag of RIVN just as kind of like a meme. It's not a big bag. I have 1,000 shares of RIVN. So what is that? I bought it this day. I had that the ETH trade running, so this is all I've done in my TradFi port, pretty much. Like, these are the 3 main trades that I've done in the Boomer portfolio. Trade number 1 was buying Coinbase down here. The day that the SEC sued it, I bought a bag of Coinbase. There was a couple times that I traded this on the way up. I basically full stack exited on this bounce after the Japan yen carry trade. And it was twofold. One is I didn't hit my take, like I didn't see this whole trade out, but I really thought that from here, because of ETH getting its ETF, that ETH would get really strong flows and that ETH would outperform. That trade did not play out as I thought. Like, it took a long time. So if I just do ETH versus coin, you guys will see how this played out. This is where I swapped it, somewhere in August, right? Around that time, like I said. And Coinbase outperformed Ethereum for a long majority of the time. It wasn't until recent that I captured, quote unquote outperformance, saying that, hey, that was a good idea, but I could have just done this over here. So it wasn't a great swap. It wasn't a great trade or anything like that. I did make it out with profits. I ended up selling some of that Ethereum up here. That was pretty much when it went to all-time highs. And then, yeah, I had just some money left over. I'm sitting in some cash in that account. So I was like, yeah, you know what? Let's buy some RIVN. I don't know. I don't know. I looked at this chart and I was like, you know what? It has been crabbing for multiple years. It has not broken down. It doesn't look bad. If we break out of this range, it could put in a really nice rally. It doesn't seem like the worst trade ever. Can you check OKLO? It's a nuclear stock that's trending. Wow. Bro, why are we in crypto? Why are we not trading stocks? Yo, Livin, where was my call? Why didn't you DM me to be like, Doc, buy this stock? Daily trend on this is pretty clean. Going back, pretty decent signals, upside, downside. There's your compression. There's a new daily uptrend. Yeah, you got a little bit of a shakeout. Went a lot higher, trading at the daily trend again. Look for this to round off. Found it last week. Okay, you're late to the party too. I don't feel as bad. Thoughts on CT accounts off-ramping from crypto to stocks? Definitely feels like alt season is happening in TradFi. I mean, the thing about crypto traders, we want fast money. We're going to chase the pump, right? You're going to always chase the pump. And some people are really good at it. and they can get into things at the right time and get there really early because of their preparation. And a lot of people just follow the herd, right? And it's usually the people that follow the herd that end up holding the bag. So if you have a thesis for a stock of why it's going to perform and outperform and you want to rotate crypto there, I mean, go for it. I don't think it's any deeper than that. That money will come back to crypto whenever they're done. Hopefully, right? Hopefully. Any trade setups right now? We covered a bunch in stream. You can go back and stream or wait for tomorrow and there'll be timestamps and you can look through it. My suggestion is probably just rewatch the stream. Watch it on 2x speed. STBL. I only know this coin because Rhino posted it yesterday. I saw Rhino posted it and I was like, everyone copy trades Rhino, so it probably went up, and I think he induced like a massive candle on this coin. Yeah. I'm pretty sure this is where he tweeted it, and then CT just chased this entire thing. Full round trip. So this is your Rhino candle. This probably would not have happened without him tweeting it. Yeah, a good amount of that positioning that opened up to chase him was washed out. At least on Binance perps. It's not trending. This is range bound completely. Everyone can do the same thing as me here. Just set out highs and lows and trade around the highs and lows. So the most optimistic or ideal place to buy this asset is going to be down at 39 or 40. If we can get down there. I use Ripster's EMAs. Is that good? I have no idea who that is or what that is. Did you totally close out Trillions or holding a runner? Completely closed out. What's Rhino's handle? His name is Battle Rhino. I don't know how he spells it. I think I don't know if there's like underscores or something in there, but just look up Battle Rhino. I'm pretty sure we'll find it. ETH above 4K might be a deviation from range high, just like April was a deviation range low, stuck in a massive range. It could be, and that's the FUD on ETH right now, of course, right? Of course people are looking at this and being like, oh, it's going to deviate, but before it does that, shouldn't we be optimistic and just say that's just a retest? Yes, it absolutely could do this, which we've talked about many times on here. That would be the invalidation on this thesis, right? If you start holding below 4K and you start rejecting 4K, yeah, obviously it's going to probably fall apart. Before that happens, I don't think it pays to try to predict that to happen. IONQ, quantum computing stock. Man, I almost don't want to open this up because I'm going to be coping. God damn. Oh, I looked at this before sometime? When did I look at this? Someone must have mentioned this at some point. It's always funny to see that TradFi assets respect EMAs. They trade like like meme coins in crypto. Pure hype, right? Daily trend, support, daily trend loss, gap down to the weekly, compression under the daily, reclaim, retest the daily, send again. Probably something like this forms if this catches up. Maybe you can long here. Market structure is killing me. I think structure is broken down and it just takes an order. Wait, what? Market structure is killing me. I think structure's broken down, and it just takes a OB somewhere and goes up. Okay, so market structure is an interesting conversation because it depends on what time frame you're looking at, right? You can have a market structure break on the 4-hour and then retest a daily order block because you are bullish on the daily time frame, right? So like imagine this is your daily time frame, right? You're setting higher highs and higher lows, and then you have a correction, right? And you're looking at this and you're like, oh, 4-hour bullish market structure. Wait, 4-hour market structure break, right? And it trades down a little bit. But right here, you have a daily order block. And that's it. That's your reversal for a higher high. So you got to pay attention to the time frames, right? If you want to give me an example of where you got screwed over, I can look at it. Was WIF a true PVE coin or just PSYOPs? I mean, it was PVE for a bit, right? Anytime a coin just goes up only, that's PVE. What is the definition of PVE? Everyone's making money. You can just long a dip and get away with it and make a bunch of money. It's not even the full history. How do I... What chart has the most history on WIF? That's the max we can get. There's more, way more down here of it just doing this probably the entire way up. Oh man, this is the last trade I took on WIF. I was super bullish right here as it was rounding off on the daily. I caught the long. I didn't full TP this right here. I thought we would lead to continuation. And then boom. Where'd it go? Just knifed right through everything. Ran my stop. I remember taking just like partial TP here and then this thing just ripping us a new one. I've been following CT since 2017. I only follow old accounts and people who knows what they're doing. And right now it's like 50-50. It's over. It's not over. That's healthy. That's what you want, man. You don't want everyone to be like agreeing on something. WIF looks like the double top. Oh, it does. It does. A lot of coins look like this though, right? Where they set lower highs. Like this is 60k Bitcoin, this is 100k Bitcoin. A lot of coins did this. This is very few coins that were actually able to set a higher high. Can you check GLXY? I like that we are throwing in so many stocks right now. Wow. I have one friend that owns GLXY. He must be stoked. Daily and weekly look pretty damn respected to me. Buy the dip at the daily trend, sell on daily trend loss, rebuy the weekly if you want to. All right, I think I'm going to end the stream there. We're coming up on 2 hours. I got to do a meeting with the cookbook squad in a few minutes. I need to get some food before that. But good stream. Good questions. Thank you guys for showing up. If you want to do me a solid, hit the like button. Hit subscribe. I've thought about putting chat in subscribe only mode, but I've never done it. But I appreciate you all. And check out the cookbook. I'm pretty sure it's live. It'll probably be on Twitter on the cookbook channel. And that's where you'll see myself, Magus, Charlie, Stoic, and Mercury sharing thoughts for the week. The more and more CT gets diluted into this big slop fest, the more I think there's value in a place where you could just go and see pure trade setups and market thoughts and analysis without scrolling past 500 memes and shit posts. So check it out. Yeah, that's it. Shout out to the sponsors, Bonkbot and Coinbase Advanced. I will be doing the Bonkbot trading challenge with Charlie one of these days. And we're trying to get Coinbase cooking, man. I can't wait to trade on there. I'm not trading on there yet, but I can't wait. Good things coming.